Welcome back to Capital Catch-Up. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. We are looking at a very heavy legislative calendar this week, covering everything from the pipes running under our streets to the wages in our pockets, and a massive slate of nominations moving through the Senate.
Let's start with infrastructure, specifically energy infrastructure. We have movement in both chambers regarding pipeline safety. In the House, we're looking at House Resolution 5301, the Pipes Act of 2025. Meanwhile, the Senate has introduced Senate Bill 2975, the Pipeline Safety Act of 2025.
And for those listening who might think pipeline legislation is dry, remember that this regulates the transport of hazardous materials through our communities. Historically, these reauthorizations are where Congress mandates new technologies to detect leaks. It looks like the 119th Congress is trying to reconcile safety standards with modernizing the grid.
Speaking of safety on our roads, Senate Bill 3775, the Stop Underrides Act 2.0, has been introduced. This is a critical piece of legislation for highway safety.
Right. An underride crash is when a smaller vehicle slides underneath a semi-truck trailer during a collision, which is almost always fatal. This 2.0 version builds on years of advocacy from victims' families who have been pushing for stronger side guards on trucks. It's a regulation battle that has been fought since the late 1960s, so seeing it back on the docket is significant.
Shifting gears to the economy, there is a distinct ideological clash happening in the labor sector. On one side, we have Senate Bill 3780, the Give America a Raise Act. As the name implies, this is likely another push to increase the federal minimum wage, which hasn't seen a statutory hike in decades.
But countering that philosophy, the House has introduced House Resolution 1319, the Modern Worker Empowerment Act. Typically, legislation with this title focuses on cementing the status of independent contractors, think gig economy workers, ensuring they aren't forcibly reclassified as employees. It's the classic debate, the security of traditional employment versus the flexibility of freelance work.
And throwing a curveball into that labor market is House Resolution 7334, the National Commission on Robotics Act.
Which is timely. If we are raising wages or redefining workers, we also need to understand how many of those jobs are being automated. This commission would likely be tasked with advising Congress on how to handle the AI and robotics displacement that economists have been warning about for years.
While we are on the Senate side, I want to highlight Senate Bill 3766, the Make Congress Drive Union Made Act. It's a smaller, symbolic bill, but it sends a message that taxpayer-funded vehicles for members should support organized labor.
Let's move to the power of the purse. House Resolution 4016, the Department of Defense Appropriations Act for 2026, has been introduced. This is the big one, the checkbook for the military.
Exactly. And usually, inside these massive appropriations bills, we see the real foreign policy priorities. Speaking of foreign policy, the House is also taking a hard line with House Resolution 70055, the Restoring Sovereignty and Human Rights in Nicaragua Act of 2026. This suggests increased sanctions or diplomatic pressure on the Ortega regime, continuing a bipartisan trend of isolating authoritarian figures in Central America.
On the domestic front, we have a focus on equity and privacy. House Resolution 6494, the Territories Health Equity Act of 2025, is on the table. This is huge for residents of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. For decades, U.S. territories have operated under a capped version of Medicaid. This bill aims to remove those caps, ensuring Americans and territories get the same healthcare funding as those in the 50 states.
And regarding privacy, take a look at Senate Bill 3779, the ICE Out of Our Faces Act. This restricts immigration and customs enforcement from using facial recognition technology on driver's license databases without a warrant. It's a unique intersection where civil liberties groups and privacy advocates find common ground.
We also have Senate Bill 3774, the Scam Act. With the rise of the AI-generated voice scams targeting seniors, this legislation likely enhances penalties for wire fraud and provides more resources for victims to recover lost funds.
Rounding out the new bills, we have Senate Bill 3770, the Strong Start Act, focusing on early childhood education funding, and House Resolution 6392, the Homeschool Graduation Recognition Act, which would likely standardize federal recognition of homeschool diplomas for things like federal aid or military enlistment.
And quickly, Senate Bill 3765, the Medal of Sacrifice Act. This usually pertains to recognizing veterans or Gold Star families who may not fit the strict criteria for a Purple Heart, but have suffered service-connected tragedies.
Let's move to the people. The Senate has a massive list of nominations to confirm.
It's a mix of retention and new blood. Christopher T. Hansen has been nominated for reappointment to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Stability there is key as we look at new nuclear energy projects.
The Department of the Interior has seen the major shift. Scott Socha has been nominated to be the director of the National Park Service, and Kevin Lilly is up for Assistant Secretary for Fish and Wildlife.
On the diplomatic stage, the Biden-Harris administration is filling gaps. Jeremy Carl and Wesley Brooks are nominated for Assistant Secretary of State positions. We also have William Long nominated as Ambassador to Iceland, and Robert Sweeney, Asian Development Bank.
And one that always causes a stir. Ashley Stowe has been nominated to the Federal Election Commission. The FEC is evenly split by design, so every single member is crucial for ruling on campaign finance violations.
Now, Victor, we have to talk about what's happening in committee, specifically the Judiciary Committee business meeting scheduled for February 26th. This is a heavy lineup. They are considering a package of bills, House Resolution 6719 and Senate Bills 3398, 3397, and 3394. These all deal with child safety, specifically criminalizing the coercion of children and the distribution of abuse material. It's a dark topic, but legislatively, it's seeing a massive bipartisan push to update Title 18 of the U.S. Code. They are closing loopholes on extortion and sentencing guidelines. Also on that docket is Senate Bill 3798, dealing with ATM crimes.
There is also a closed briefing scheduled for February 26th on tech competition, critical minerals, and supply chain security. When you hear closed briefing involving critical minerals, you should read that as, how are we competing with China on batteries and chips?
Absolutely. Finally, looking at the Congressional Daily Records from February 11th through the 19th, volumes 172, numbers 29 through 33, we see the procedural grinding of these bills we just mentioned. So what should listeners watch for in the coming days? Watch the PIPES Act. Energy infrastructure cuts across party lines, but the environmental amendments usually cause the friction. And keep an eye on that Robotics Commission bill. It sounds sci-fi, but it's actually about the immediate future of the American workforce.
That's it for this edition of Capital Catch-Up. Thanks for listening.
We'll see you next time.